Hey, what's up, guys? This is Carson, and welcome to the first episode where I am going to break down the music for No Son of Mine. I'm very happy that I get to do this. I have not got to do something like this before, where it's just more than me sitting and making one episode breaking down one song. I get to break down a whole soundtrack, and this being my first console game soundtrack, this is going to be really exciting for me to do this. So a little bit of backstory as to how I got hired for this game. I was working for a developer for a game called Dark Fracture, which some of you may know about, and that is being published by Feardemic. And Feardemic needed a composer for another game after I finished that one and everything. And this was about, honestly, probably this time last year is probably around the time I got hired and started working on this soundtrack. But I was approached by them to score a new game called No Son of Mine. And at the time, I had no other projects going, and I was like, this game looks pretty cool. I might as well just jump in on this now. It's pretty cool that I was asked to do something, because at this stage right now, normally I am not the one to be asked. I'm normally the one who asks other people if I can, work on their games and stuff. So that was pretty cool. And so I got hired, and they needed a composer fairly last minute from my understanding. So I had about a little over a month to do this whole score. So I had about a month and a half, maybe a little less probably, to do about a 13-track soundtrack and everything for this. And so that was fairly challenging because of time constraints and everything, but it was also more motivating. It helped me. I think it helped the process, me not sitting on songs for like 10 bajillion years deciding on, if it's done or not. So it was really helpful in that process, and I'm very thankful, honestly, that it was about a month deadline. As far as the overall inspirations and sound and everything, I know that the developer really likes Halloween, so John Carpenter and stuff. And so I kind of got the overall vibe of kind of what he wanted sound-wise, not necessarily so much in what synths to use and everything that, for example, John Carpenter used, but the kind of overall, 70s, 80s, 90s horror theme sound. Because I feel like that era of horror has very distinct, overall sound textures. Halloween, Scream, the original 1990 Stephen King miniseries, that soundtrack. All these movies have very different but a somewhat cohesive sound about them, if that makes any sense. So I got the sense of, I listened to all these soundtracks from that time period because I know that's kind of what the developer's vibe was for music. And so I try to take that and incorporate it into the score sound-wise and, with melodies and stuff, but also obviously adding my own kind of, spin and touch to everything. Whenever I originally got to look at the game for scoring, I noticed that there was a lot of, with the music that he just had thrown in there, there was a lot of bell sounds, like music boxy kind of chime bell sounds. And so I really, for the main melody and everything, really dove into that, because that is a very stereotypical horror trope, is, the music box and everything. And I wanted to do that, but do it just not do it in such a generic way where I just use a music box. I wanted to make it a little bit more interesting. And so most of what you hear the main melody played on throughout the entire soundtrack is just a music box with a lot of processing and effects and stuff. Sometimes the melody is played by other instruments besides just the music box kind of sound that I made, obviously. Like in the track Here He Comes, there is the music box sound, but I'm pretty sure in that entire song, not any of the melodies really played by the music box. It's all in the strings that I have in that song. But actually, fun fact about this, the theme that is for No Son of Mine. Originally, it was a song called Omen that I made a while ago, 3 years ago maybe at this point. And it was a theme that I made while I was at my cousin's house. It was just a really cool piano idea that came to me, and it was poorly executed at the time, and so I always just had it sitting there waiting for me to revisit it at some point and everything. And since I only had a month to do this soundtrack, I was like, there's no better time to do this. I really think that it fits that overall vibe that I was talking about earlier. And so I got to revisit it for this, and so obviously I scrapped the original version, but I kept the melody and everything. And so you hear this throughout most of the soundtrack. There are variants of the theme, for example, and the theme is more so in the left hand, in the kind of bassy regions, because the top part of the melody, for the most part, is always just. It doesn't change a lot. It's got that kind of dissonance to it. That, like, for example, again, John Carpenter had in the Halloween theme, because Halloween is. It just goes up like that. And so I'm doing the same thing, but just going down on different notes and everything, but just going down instead of. So kind of, again, taking inspiration from stuff that I know the developer likes to help push this theme. And since that was already a part of the theme, I was like, okay, this just works like perfectly. And so there's that. And then underneath it is the actual, what I consider to be more of like what the main theme is. It goes. And there's a lot of variations in that as well. Tracks like The Neighborhood Watches is one where that's played. Here He Comes is another one. The final boss track also has a variant of it. So there's a lot of versions of the main theme in it, sometimes played a little bit differently. Like, for example, the Here He Comes track, it's not played like that. It's more like. So there's different versions and different like styles that it's played with throughout the soundtrack, depending on the overall kind of vibe and stylistic idea of the track and what it's trying to do in the game. And so altogether, the main theme and the main melodies and everything just kind of sounds like this. And I think that it sounds very, very cool. And I, again, am very happy that I got to revisit that kind of original melody I had and, build upon it, because I really do think that it's a very cool sounding theme idea. So I'm glad that I got to take that and expand upon it. That is it for this episode. This is the introduction. I just wanted to talk about the overall inspirations and the kind of story behind how I started working on this. Talk a little bit about the main theme, because I want to focus more on sound design and how I approached the area ambiences and tracks like that, for example, in these next couple episodes. So this one's just an introduction. I wanted to talk about the theme, as I stated before, and just kind of go over that and that whole process with how a main theme for a game can come to me personally and how that can happen. So thank you guys for watching episode 1. I will see you guys next week for episode 2, and I hope you guys are doing well.